They say she bathed in the blood of young girls, but witnesses of the time mostly spoke of silence. A silence as heavy as the snow settling over Chuktiche Castle, frozen atop the mountains of Upper Hungary. Each night it descended right after the scream. They call her the Blood Countess. But before the myth, there was a woman, learned, noble, born into a lineage so ancient, some whispered that the devil himself had once gifted her family its fortune. Elizabeth Bathory, widow, mother of several children, a Catholic beyond reproach, until the maids began to disappear. Rumors were born in the cold of those corridors. A young woman limped, her face swollen. Another tried to flee the estate before dawn. The guards caught her before she reached the forest's edge. She mumbled incoherent words. The mirror. She looks into it before each death. She died of exhaustion a few days later. The rumor became a whisper, then the whisper a confession. The first bodies surfaced in the winter of 1609, hastily buried near the castle cellars. Strange wounds, marks on the shoulders like bites from iron. A local judge warned the court, anxious, but who would dare accuse a woman of such rank? The witnesses then kept silent. Elizabeth's gold flowed through the nearby parishes, paying for masses and judges alike. A simple inheritance feud, some said. Yet in the funeral registers, the names of young maidens began to pile up. Dozens, then hundreds. Come closer, look at this room. The walls still bear the chains. The stones, blackened at their base, keep the traces of forgotten candles. One witness described it as a sanctuary for shadows. The same phrase appears in a trial document. She invoked the one no priest dares name. Lilith. Legend claims that this entity, exiled from Eden for refusing submission, wanders among sleepers to feast on the breath of young women. Elizabeth had read those texts, they said. Some claimed she kept forbidden grimoires from Transylvania in her library. Latin notes, written in her own hand, spoke of purification through blood. Their authenticity was never proven. But one symbol recurs. A winged female silhouette, drawn in the margins of her journals, sometimes carved into the flesh of her victims. Servants described her nightly ritual. A young girl brought before her. Elizabeth struck her, then suddenly froze, fascinated by a drop of blood falling onto her hand. She rubbed it, stared at it in the flicker of torchlight. It is said that, in that moment, she laughed alone. The crimes continued until 1610. Villagers, despite their terror, decided to speak out. The King of Hungary sent a delegation to inspect the castle. What they found defied reason. 4 accomplice servants, a sealed chamber, and 27 bodies at different stages of mutilation. Horror still resists description. The official report tried to sound rational, methodical. Yet between the lines, wonder bleeds through. An investigator wrote, "She no longer seemed to separate the body from the soul." Elizabeth Bathory was arrested without a public trial. Her name, too, esteemed for the gallows. Her servants were executed after torture. She was locked forever in her own chamber, walled behind stone. A small opening for food. Then silence. Years passed. They say that at night, guards still heard a soft voice praying under her breath. At dawn, reddish stains appeared on the walls. No satisfying explanation was ever offered. Some spoke of condensation or oxidation. Others chose not to answer. Her fortune was seized, her name erased from official chronicles for a time, but the legend took root, and through the centuries, Elizabeth Bathory became almost mythic. Vampire, witch, demoness, as though history refused to let her die sealed away. Still, the facts remain. 613 presumed victims, numerous witnesses, sometimes contradicting each other, yet repeating the same gestures, the bite, the draining, the nocturnal hunt, an obsession with youth, beauty, purity. Themes that in 17th century Europe easily fused with the religious fears of sin and damnation. The priests had no doubt. They saw in the Countess a living embodiment of evil, yet the enigma endures. No trace of a common motive, no greed, no jealousy, no rage, only the fixed idea of eternity brushed by the edge of blood. As if behind her cruelty there hid a warped form of spiritual pursuit. One of the last guards to see her alive wrote in a letter, "She murmured through the wall that death did not belong to God alone," a troubling phrase, often quoted, never proven. In the small village below the castle, fear has never left. They say that in winter, dogs refuse to approach the ruins. Old women still place candles along the old foundations, not to honor the Countess, but to contain her, as if the legend still breathed within the stone. And what if this darkness was more than human, if something else had slipped behind those doors, feeding on a spirit cracked by grief and power? The answer perhaps lies beneath the stones of her sealed chamber, where, in 1614, she was said to have breathed her last, but no one ever saw the body. As the Bathory file gathers dust in the archives, another figure steps forward. A man this time. His name echoes through centuries of fear and forbidden pacts. He speaks softly of an entity older than the night itself, and in his eyes the same obsessive glimmer. The trial has long faded into silence, yet the archives still breathe. In a library in Budapest, a historian opens a 17th-century manuscript. On the first page, a single word scrawled in a trembling hand: Lilith. In the margin, a familiar symbol: the winged woman, pressed into dried wax. Elizabeth Bathory's name reappears in several erased passages, as if the scribe had hesitated to preserve her memory. The man turns the pages slowly. Priests of the time debate what they call the inverted sin of Eve. A woman who saw herself chosen to defy God through blood. According to their notes, Elizabeth believed she had found in Lilith a sacred justification, a twisted theology where the blood of virgins promised eternal youth, a reward reserved for those who denied divine authority. An anonymous text from 1612 goes further. At dawn she prayed before an inverted mirror, calling, "Mother Lilith, breathe your strength into me." No material evidence remains, yet this testimony has circulated in occult circles for 4 centuries. Each phrase evokes something exact, almost liturgical: the mirror, the blood, the reversed light. Look at that mirror, then, the one discovered in 1908 during restoration of the castle. It had been hidden inside the wall of the chamber where she was confined. Its surface bore an inscription in Latin: Sanguis est templum. Blood is a temple. Such words tie Elizabeth's mind directly to the magical thinking of her age, the belief that vital fluid could carry the soul's energy, an idea found equally in alchemical grimoires and in pagan prayers. Those close to the Countess described her as volatile, consumed by obsessions that bordered on visions. A surviving maid claimed to have seen a female shadow behind her as she prayed. The investigator Thelek wrote in his final report, "She was answering someone I could not hear." No mention of any human presence. Modern psychiatrists speak of a progressive psychosis deepened by isolation, the loss of her husband, superstition, and the burdens of her rank. Yet one detail still unsettles: pentagrams carved beneath a basement slab dated to the original construction of the castle, meaning the symbol predated Elizabeth. An old seal, perhaps a medieval ornament, or a forgotten warning. In Central European folklore, the name Lilith often merges with local legends. They say she circles cradles, stealing the breath of young mothers in their sleep. In Chakticha, whispers claimed the Countess sought to become her mirror. A legend recounts that before her downfall, she had a silver medallion engraved with her own portrait on one side, Lilith's visage on the other. That medallion vanished after her arrest. A 19th-century theologian, Arpad Horvath, reopened her file and noticed something peculiar. The dates of her main murders aligned with pagan lunar feasts dedicated to feminine deities. Full moon nights preceding the equinoxes appeared repeatedly in witness statements. The precise link remained uncertain, but the idea of an inverted fertility rite, one rooted in destruction rather than life, seemed to have governed her mind. A modern psychiatrist offers another angle. Elizabeth, he writes, sought not to serve a demon, but to embody absolute power in a world that denied women any form of domination. Lilith thus became a metaphor for rebellion, terrible, bloody, fallen. This view turns the legend into a symbol of alienation, a woman crushed by the very myth she awakened. Still, physical traces persist, too stubborn to ignore. Clerical registers mention a change of odor in her walled-up chamber after her death, the scent of iron and melted wax combined. The local priest, known for his discipline, added a marginal note to his sermon: "She has found another breath beyond human time." A haunting phrase no royal censor dared erase. Even today, visitors to the castle speak of unease as they near the original foundations. Guides explain it away as humidity, lack of air, temperature shifts. Others describe a sudden coldness pulled from another century, a phenomenon fixed to the stone since the days of the trial. Scholars still struggle to reconcile the facts. An educated woman undone by madness? Or a being who knowingly wielded forbidden symbols to feel eternal? Accounts diverge, yet all agree on one strange consistency. Those who saw her eyes spoke of calm, no panic, no fury, only that stillness found in mystics who believe they glimpse a truth beyond the world. Several historians have tried to strip the story of its supernatural core. They argue the legend was inflated by nobles eager to seize the Bathory lands. But even rational analysis casts a lingering shadow. The sheer number of bodies and the deliberate cruelty defy the logic of mere politics. Something burned inside her, a consuming faith, a fire that devoured everything around her. Come closer again and look at the final page of the recovered manuscript. The anonymous scribe ended with one line: "Lilith sought to tame death, and death opened its hand to her." No one knows whether he spoke of Elizabeth or the demon itself. Time has erased the boundaries between woman and legend. Elizabeth's chamber remains sealed. Only the bones of her victims have seen daylight. The rest sleeps beneath stone, in silence unbroken by centuries. Each winter, villagers still light candles at the foot of the ruins, fearing the winged shadow might return for another soul. In the history of crime, she stands apart, a countess turned icon of evil. Yet behind the blood and terror glimmers something unmistakably human, the desperate hunger to surpass death, even at the cost of drowning in it. The demon in her story may have no wings at all. It wears a human face. And as the last candlelight flickers along the walls of Chak Teach, another darkness begins to stir.